today, cooking in Nancy's home kitchen is going to take a road trip. But first, we have to make one of my favorite cakes for one of my favorite people. This is our bourbon chocolate cake. I'm going to start out with 2 sticks of butter. And then 5 ounces of unsweetened baker's chocolate. I have cut into basically 1/2 ounce pieces. We're going to add that to our bowl. 3 heaping tablespoons of instant coffee, because that'll bring out the chocolatey flavor. And then I have 1/2 cup of bourbon. Now to that, we are going to add a 1 3/4 cups of hot water, boiling hot water. So I'm going to head on over to the stove, get my water. I need a glove. This water's hot. All right. We are going to pour this directly on top of our chocolate and our butter mixture. Then we're going to put my baking stone on top. So what this is going to do is hold in all that heat, and the steam and the hot water are going to melt all the chocolate and the butter. And then in 10 more minutes, we'll come back and go to the next step. All right, our steam has been accumulating for the last 10 minutes. So now we are going to take the lid off and make sure that the chocolate and the butter has melted. And sometimes, if it's too cold, and we are experiencing a rather cold winter here in Texas, the chocolate will not melt in that time. And neither has the butter. So there are 2 ways we can do this. We could put the lid back on and let it sit a little while longer to keep trying to melt, or we can force it to melt. And by doing that, I'd make a double boiler. I'm going to let it sit for another 5 minutes, see what happens. It should heat up just enough that everything is melted, and then we'll add our sugar. So our chocolate and our butter have fully melted. Now we're going to add 2 cups of white sugar and make sure we stir it all the way in, and then we're going to let this sit and cool off, because right now the mixture is too hot to add eggs to. They'll just turn into scrambled eggs. So we're going to give this about 20 minutes and then we'll be back. So our sugar and chocolate mixture and bourbon is finally cool. Now we're going to add to it 2 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a pinch of salt. This is the kind of recipe that drives my husband crazy, because he wants to know whose pinch. My pinch, his pinch, the baby's pinch. How much is a pinch? It's just not precise enough for him. So we're going to stir all this together. Get it all the way mixed. You want to work on getting the clumps of flour out. And this is a very liquidy batter. It's going to be very thin. All right. So now that all of our dry ingredients are mixed in, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then I'm going to put 2 eggs in. And we're going to whisk that together until it's all one consistency. All right, our batter is ready. Now we have to prepare our pans. So what I'm going to do, I have 2 9-inch round pans, and I'm going to take my hand grease, which I make myself. So with my pastry brush, I'm just going to Make sure I get all around the pan so that it comes right out. And just pour the batter in. With both pans. So this is going to cook in a 275-degree oven for about 45 minutes. So at 45 minutes, we checked the cake. It was not ready. So it took another 11 minutes. But the toothpick goes in, comes out clean. That means our cake is done. Now we're going to let it cool before we pack it up and head down to Dallas. All right, so today we're going to make some candied bourbon pecans. Okay. I have a half a cup of sugar and a half of a teaspoon of salt if you want to mix those together.
Yes, I can.
I'm going to take an egg white, just one, and 2 tablespoons of praline liqueur.
Ooh.
Because I like the way it tastes. And we're going to mix that together. I'm going to whisk it till it's frothy.
I think my mixing is done.
Your mixing is done. You know much to do. So what we're going to do is then put this on top of the pecans. I have 3 cups of pecan halves in there. So once this is all combined, we're going to pour it on top. And then I'm going to mix it. I'm going to do it by hand because it's just easier to get a feel of where make sure the nuts are all covered.
And so this is going to go on top of the cake, right?
Yes, this is going to go on top of our bourbon chocolate cake.
That actually looks good.
There'll be some extras.
Okay.
And we need to taste test to make sure that we need quality control.
Definitely, definitely.
You pour the sugar on top of that for me?
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to mix some more.
Smells good.
And then I have this foil-lined baking sheet that you were so nice to line for me.
Yes, my contribution.
We are going to pour our pecans on there. We're going to bake these in a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes. All right, so we're going to make a praline caramel.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I have 2 cups of sugar.
Okay.
I have 6 tablespoons of praline liqueur, again. And then I have 2 tablespoons of honey. And we're going to turn this on and let it sit. It only needs a couple minutes to start to melt, and you don't have to stir it all.
I was just going to ask you, so we don't need to stir.
You don't have to stir.
Okay.
It will mix all on its own.
Okay. So as it heats up.
Low and slow with caramel.
All right.
So, this is my cousin Candace.
Hello, everyone.
We brought the cake, the bourbon chocolate cake, up here because we have friends to deliver it to, and Candace was nice enough to let me borrow her kitchen.
Oh, I'm excited to have you here. Yes, yes.
Because otherwise, this could have gotten. You don't want a cake to get smushed in transit.
Right.
Especially when you're taking a 4-hour road trip.
No, you're taking all this time to create this wonderful
This is
icing
the filling. And then we still have to do the bourbon buttercream to go on the outside.
Yeah, you can't transport all that. That wouldn't work.
No.
So I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to watch.
I'm so glad you let us borrow your kitchen. So we're going to let this cook.
Okay.
It's going to turn this deep caramel color, and then we're going to add the heavy cream to it. Okay, so our caramel is bubbled up like we want it to. Now we're going to add that 1.5 cups of heavy cream.
All right.
It's going to bubble some more. And then we're going to wait for all of that to die down. Shouldn't take long. And then we're going to move it over behind us and add that 2 teaspoons of salt.
Salt, yes. I prepared that. Yay!
Yes, you did. All right, so our cream is in. It has settled down. We're going to stir it up and then add our 2 teaspoons of salt.
All right.
So if you feel, it feels lumpy.
Okay.
We're going to
whisk all those lumps out.
Yep. And then we're going to let it sit and cool off so it can be a filling.
So how long approximately?
Oh, we're going to go barbecue.
Okay.
We're going to go to lunch and come back.
And then it'll be ready for us to do our next step.
Yep.
Awesome.
There it is.
There you go, got it. Man, I can't wait to see this.
All right, we're going to let it sit We're gonna go have some barbecue lunch and then we'll be back. All right, we're back from our barbecue lunch.
Yes,
which
delicious.
was really good. And now we're gonna make our bourbon buttercream.
Okay.
So I've got 4 sticks of butter in the mixer, which we're gonna turn on and mix until they form together. And we're gonna add 6 cups of powdered sugar.
All right.
Easy. 1. It's a family affair.
Yeah, family going on in the background.
They're playing. Last I was in there, they were playing the farm game, and Sean said, "You have lost $49 while we sit here."
See, I told you the money just ticks away. I think we're having more fun though making the buttercream frosting. That's 5, one more.
And don't tell Seth we made buttercream without him.
Well, I definitely don't worry. I won't tell her.
He said, "Y'all did it all without me. You were playing. You didn't tell me you wanted to cook." I'm gonna do up 1 more. That gets it perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we are going to add 2 tablespoons of bourbon.
Okay. Bourbon.
Bourbon. And usually I would add vanilla, but I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of our praline liqueur this time.
Okay.
Because
That
it's sweet
flavor
enough.
through the
Yeah,
fruit.
and it's sweet enough that should
Do the trick. Trying to get us.
Yeah. Accelerated too quickly. Slow that down. Let all that incorporate. All right, so
Wow.
see,
That looks good.
that's all we do. Now what we're going to do is, one of my tricks is to take just a little bit of the icing and spread it on the bottom of the cake board.
Is that to make sure the cake stays?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So that when you put the cake on it, it doesn't move.
Nice
And
and
slide
straight.
around.
Voila.
Yep. And now we're going to fill this with caramel.
Okay.
Right. Can you make paper towel real quick?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is make a wall.
Okay.
Okay, with the icing. So I have my piping bag. I'm just gonna scoop some of this out. If I were icing it with the same, if the filling and that outer icing were the same, you wouldn't have to do this
Okay.
because they're different. If I don't want the caramel to squeeze out the side, which we do not.
Ah, I get it. So you make a wall to keep it in.
Right. So you just put a roll up.
And just that quick.
Mm-hmm. And there we're done.
All right.
Now we're gonna put this in the refrigerator, let it cool, and let the icing set up before we fill it.
Okay. Make a strong wall.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, so our wall
It's set.
is set.
Okay.
Our praline caramel is ready. So all we're gonna do is take and spoon it on, and some of it is going to seep into the cake, which is never a bad thing.
Yes.
And then just gonna fill it up.
So I've seen that where sometimes people put holes in the cake and then they'll pour something on
Oh,
top.
yeah.
Is that something you can do with this cake, or if this
can.
is this just enough to give you that right flavor?
I like it this way and
Okay.
not seeped. I mean, not
Too
poking
much.
the holes. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the cake, because I think it gets. Yeah, there's
Okay.
just too much bourbon.
Yeah.
At some point, and I know that's not common for most people that there is such a thing as
There's
too much bourbon. There is.
Yes.
Okay, so then we're gonna put the second layer on,
Okay.
and we are going to let it set again another 15-20 minutes, and then we'll come back and ice the whole thing.
And so as I'm learning, I see when you took that out, you put what I call the top of the cake actually down first, and is that to give it the correct shape
Correct.
and everything, so it'll
Yep.
look good?
Yep.
Okay. All these good
So
tidbits.
that it looks
Uniform
right.
and correct.
And you don't have that mound
Okay.
over the top.
So this goes back in the refrigerator.
Back in the refrigerator. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is ice the cake.
Okay.
Okay, so this is our,
The final step.
yep.
Not quite. On the way.
We call this dirty icing because
Dirty
it doesn't have
icing.
to be perfect.
Okay.
We're just going to kind of make a barrier around it.
So I know you've come to my kitchen and you're working in subpar conditions.
They are not subpar.
But at home, do you have one of those lazy Susan
I
things?
have 3.
Okay.
I'm not spoiled at all. Right?
I was trying to think if
Just
I had
'cause-
anything that could be a substitute, but I don't think I do.
I have a hand.
There we go.
I can twist. This is how I used to do it before the
So I
lazy
think
Susan.
the dirty icing might be the clean icing for me.
Well, that's how most people clean icing.
I think that might be how my cake turns out.
But then
You're gonna
when I
add
show
the
you
finishing touches to it.
the rosettes and how easy they are to do, and especially when you realize that you can just dirty ice like this and then put rosettes all
On
over it
top
and
of
make
it.
it look so pretty and fancy,
Yeah.
you won't ice that way anymore.
You heard it here.
You won't, I
The
promise.
challenge has been set.
Okay, so every little piece is covered,
Mhm.
right? With icing, a little bit of icing. Okay. Alright,
All right, dirty icing complete.
dirty icing is done. So now, I have that open star that I showed you earlier.
Okay.
And all we're gonna do is start at a point, squeeze, and go around.
And then come back in the middle.
See how fancy it looks?
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm doing is making circles.
So you're gonna do that on the top, and you're gonna do that around the sides.
Yep, and then we're gonna put those
Our
pecans. Right,
in the middle.
right.
Awesome. Done.
Done. And then we're gonna take those beautiful pecans we made earlier,
Okay.
and not too many of them, because I know that
We've been waiting
people
for this
around here
part
have
to
been
see
eyeing them. How much is
gonna be
left?
Crush
crumble
them
them
up and spread them on top.
And the good part about the foil being on there is you don't have to wash
Now
it.
clean up. Or very little, if any.
And we're done.
Nice. Voila. And I didn't mess up the icing because I didn't do it.